Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today about worry management. Thank you for joining us. We're just going to get going with some welcomes and introductions for you to have a bit of context about us. So today's session will be delivered by me. My name is Rebecca. I'm a psychological wellbeing practitioner for the Brent Young People Thrive team. You may have seen some of my colleagues facilitating or moderating in the past. So there's Alexandra, Zoe, and Trisha. But today I will be delivering this webinar. So just an outline. So what you can expect from today's webinar, it will be virtual and interactive. So there'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions, but it will obviously be delivered online. It's confidential and safe. It's anonymized, and the webinar is recorded and it will be shared after the session. So part one of the webinar will be worry explained with practical techniques for you to take away. And there's an open question and answer session, and then some post-webinar feedback. So before we get going, a point about safeguarding. So we need to make sure that you're safe during this session and beyond. So if we are at any point concerned about your safety, we will discuss our concerns with you offline. And then with your permission, we'll signpost you to the Wellbeing service and the appropriate mental health support services. So before we get going today, I want you to have a think about what is on your mind today in this moment. What worries or concerns would you like help with today? And what is causing you to worry at the moment? So just take a few moments to think about that. Okay, so if we just come back together now. So I can share one of my worries that might be a universal one, which is just, the easing of lockdown and, sort of getting back into normal life, as it were, what that will look like. Will there be another outbreak? And, just kind of readjusting to normality after such a long time of being kind of hidden away. So that's something that I am worried about at the moment and is on my mind. But I hope you've had a chance to think about what your concerns are that are kind of personal to you, so that you can get the sort of most out of this webinar. So just a quick introduction about what worry actually is. So it's a normal process, and everyone will go through this, thinking about future events in a way that makes you feel anxious or apprehensive. So I just shared my example of worrying about this sort of transition back to normality post-COVID. So that's something that, that's an example of a worry. So worrying can become a problem when it interferes with your ability to enjoy everyday activities in life in general. So for instance, socializing, studying, thinking straight, simply just, being yourself, and also feeling safe. And I think that's when worry goes from just being sort of, something that we all experience to actually being something a bit more taxing and consuming of your everyday life. What will cause worrying? So some upsetting experiences from the past may cause you to worry. So for instance, bullying, or loss of family member or friends. So I think this one's a very important one. Bereavement, we've all been affected by it this year. We've all felt a universal sense of loss, whether it's a loss of, our routines, job, loved ones, seeing friends and family. So I think that's one we can all relate to. Illness, again, I think that was something that was pertinent on all of our minds this year with COVID. And then worry can also be a learned behavior. So it might be something that we've picked up and modeled from our family members, from our, our caretakers, parents. It can be something that we have kind of learned to responding with worry. It can also be a genetic disposition. We might have, again, due to our kind of family and our upbringing, we might have a genetic tendency towards feeling worry and more worry than others. Family traits. And then, just to sort of point about feeling just overwhelmed with life at the moment. The pandemic is enough to make most people feel incredibly overwhelmed. And I think, most people will feel a sense of, or will have felt at some point during the past 12 months, a sense of worry, and with every reason. So what are the things that worry young adults? So this is taken from The Independent, and some of them are sort of getting jobs, the future, university, deadlines, exams, targets, money, work-life balance. I think that's an important one with COVID. I think, we've all been kind of working and studying from home. So how do we balance that kind of ability to switch off when we need to? Finances, debt. I think that's a big one also for students, kind of student debt, what that looks like for the future. Getting jobs, again, in such an uncertain climate, that's a really important one to bring up. Worrying about family, friends, loved ones, our goals for the future, property. Are we, as a young adult, who is going to be able to get onto that property ladder? What will that look like? So you could just have a look at this for yourself, and sort of see which ones kind of stand out for you. But as I say, these are sort of the top 20 worries that have been identified by young adults. And I think, again, we can all relate to at least, a few of these. So what does worry feel like? So excessive worry is distressing. It can affect the way we think, how we feel, and what we do with it. So it's a sort of cycle of worry that we can get into. What does it look like? What are the symptoms? What are we looking at when we think about worry, and excessive worry? Disturbed sleep patterns. We might sleep too little. So that kind of restlessness of not being able to fall asleep, being kind of wired, or sleeping too much. I think, again, you might fall into one category, or you might think you fall into both of those categories of, sometimes you find it really hard to sleep, and other times you just feel lethargic and sleep is all you really want to do. Also feeling of irritability, really kind of easy to kind of to kind of feel that kind of irritation, and at others, at certain things, at yourself. Feeling physically restless, tense, or edgy. Again, during the pandemic, when we weren't allowed out kind of, all that much during the day, I think that was a time when many people probably felt this sense of, physical tension and worry. There's it can be a sense of impending doom or danger. Feeling weak or tired. So again, if you're overtired, if you've not been sleeping well, that can lead to a kind of cycle of worry. Sweaty, feeling sort of starting to sweat or shake. Eating too much or too little. Again, like sleep, you might identify with one of these or both of these kind of attributes. You might find you lost your appetite entirely, or that food is a comfort for you. Concentrating on work and studies and finding that difficult. Again, very, very much something that I think a lot of people can identify with this past year. So let's just move on. So let's have a think about the vicious cycle of worry. So we spoke about how our thoughts will then go on to kind of activate our anxiety and our beliefs, and then there might be a trigger that sort of starts that will then, you know, keep that cycle going. So we're going to show a short video now about that worry cycle, but just to give you an idea of, you know, if we start with the trigger might be, I don't know, you know, waking up 10 minutes after your alarm and having lost 10 minutes of your morning routine. What might be the thoughts that go with it? I'm going to be late. My day's ruined. I'm useless. That will then provoke anxiety, and then it will lead to kind of a sense of beliefs about yourself, and this will then keep that cycle going. So that's just a very kind of basic explanation, but we're going to watch this video now, and bear with me as I just get this open for you.
CBT Self-Help for Generalized Anxiety Disorder and Worry from getselfhelp.co.uk. The vicious cycle of GAD and worry. Thoughts are about something bad is going to happen. There might not just be words in our head. We might imagine the scenario happening and see real vivid pictures of it happening. It makes it seem all the more believable somehow. And it's the worst case scenario that we imagine. We might also ask ourselves lots of unanswerable questions that we are never going to find the answer to. Difficult to tolerate any sort of uncertainty about anything. You know, we want to be sure. And we might have beliefs about worrying keeps me safe because it means I can plan and prepare, or perhaps all this worrying is going to make me really crazy. If you're thinking and believing those thoughts, you're going to feel anxious. You're going to get that adrenaline kicking in. You're going to get all those unpleasant physical sensations. If you're thinking and feeling that, then you've got to try and get rid of those feelings. Now, you might worry more about everything. You might avoid certain situations where you might start feeling anxious, or you might really try hard at avoiding having the thoughts in the first place. You might keep busy, or you might try and distract yourself all the time. And we tend to avoid looking at problems, facing up to them, and therefore they build up and become overwhelming. So if we keep doing all those things, that's just going to keep the thoughts going. That's going to make you feel even more anxious. And we get caught up in this vicious cycle. The CBT helps us to break the cycle. And we can break the cycle by learning to think differently or do things differently. So you can learn to challenge your thoughts and beliefs. Don't believe everything you think. They are just thoughts. You can ask yourself, is this a current problem that I can do something about? Or perhaps, is this a hypothetical situation that I've just got to let go for now? And we can learn to accept uncertainty. We can learn to shift our focus of attention too. And we can change our behaviors. We can learn coping skills and strategies. We can set worry times, worry zones, or set off-duty zones when either we worry more or you might worry less. You might reduce the planning and checking that you often do. Learn to problem solve, prioritize, and start to work on those problems. Learn mindfulness techniques and not avoid situations, but go into them and find out that actually we can cope and everything is okay. So if you're thinking differently and doing differently, that's going to have a big impact on your anxiety. So you're going to feel a lot less anxious and much more composed. So you can visit the webpage get.gg/gad.htm.
Right. So I hope that was a helpful video for you to watch about that kind of vicious cycle of worry, and that it kind of explained to you in more detailed terms some of the things that we're beginning to look at. So what are some of the ways that you might cope with worry? So if you just take a moment to think about, in your mind, what it is that you tend to do to cope with your own worries. These might be positive coping mechanisms. So they might be kind of helpful ones, like taking a walk, getting some exercise, having a bath, practicing some form of self-care, whatever that looks like for you. And you might also think about some of the negative ways that you cope with worry. What is it that you do that actually you can identify today and say, actually, that's not very helpful, but I do it nonetheless. And it's become something that I've kind of, I rely on. And, it might be kind of going onto social media and spending hours on social media rather than focusing on work. Or it might be going onto social media and, comparing your life to someone else's and thinking, oh, this person has everything that I don't have. It might be drinking too much or smoking too much. These are all, it's good. It's a good time to kind of identify what those patterns look like for you and hone in on the good, positive coping mechanisms with worry. So you might want to take a few moments now to just think about that and, make a note about it. And I can share with you some of the sort of coping mechanisms that I personally tend to use. So I will limit the amount of kind of social media and time on my phone. So I find actually that I have a news update on my phone, and that constant stream of information and news is obviously, relevant, and it's something I need to be aware of, but I try to limit that to only kind of come up once a day rather than a constant stream of it. And I find that that's a way of kind of controlling just how much information is coming in and how I'm responding to it. So yeah, just take a moment to think about how you cope with your worries, positively and negatively. And now we can move on to think about some specific strategies to help you to manage your worry. So there are two types of sort of quite common worries: the practical worry, current problems that we can do something about, and then the kind of hypothetical worries, what if, thoughts about the future. So I think we can all identify, the difference between our practical worries and our hypothetical worries. But for instance, a practical worry of mine, to give you an example, a kind of a literal example of this, is practical worry might be, well, in fact, today I'm worried that I haven't had a confirmation for a flight that I've booked for, to visit some family. So that's something that I'm kind of worrying about. Can I do something about it? Yes, I can. I can contact the airline, I can contact customer service. There are practical things I can do about it. So then by that definition, it's a practical worry. Hypothetically, what am I worried about? The what if, what happens after COVID? What if we're in another lockdown? What if, we spend the rest of our kind of, year in another lockdown? These are all kind of hypothetical worries. So it's good to differentiate between the two. And I'm going to encourage you to do that for yourselves now. So just your practical worry and your hypothetical worry, if there is something, or maybe one in the past, that can also be helpful. Okay, so what are the ways that you might, what are the ways that you might overcome your worry? So you might use something called worry time, and you might have heard of this before. What is worry time? It's essentially time that you're setting aside once a day or, once a week, however often you feel it's necessary, to think about those worries and to focus on those worries. And that might be, so again, an example, it might be just 15 minutes that you take every day where you write down on a list or on a journal, whatever you kind of feel comfortable with, or it might just be on your phone, all the things that you are worried about, all the practical worries and the hypothetical ones. What can I do about them? What can I kind of deal with now in this time? What can I actually set aside time to deal with? And the things that I can't deal with practically, the kind of hypothetical side of things, I'm just going to sit with this worry and think it through. You know, what does it mean? What is the absolute worst case scenario of this? Sit with that worry, and then when that worry time is over, so 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, however long you feel works for you, you then park those worries. You know, you've given them the airtime, and now you are going to move on with your day. So that's quite a practical solution. There's also the worry tree, which is a sort of an action plan for dealing with worry. So here is just sort of a diagram of the worry tree. So how are you going to do this? So you notice the worry. What am I actually worrying about? Is this worry about a current problem or a hypothetical one? Can I do something about it? No. Okay, then I have to let that worry go and change the focus of my attention. Can I do something about it? Yes. Well, then I have an action plan. What, when, how? So am I going to do it now? Fine. If I can do it now, let's do it. Then I let the worry go and change the focus of attention. If I'm going to do it later, I'm going to schedule in when I'm going to be doing it, and then I'm going to let the worry go, and then I'm going to change my focus of attention. So again, the overall kind of end goal is changing that focus of attention. And it's either by dealing with that worry directly now and then, or accepting the worry and letting it go and changing your attention, or scheduling a time where you can deal with the worry. So ultimately, it's about not ruminating. It's about kind of changing your way of thinking about things so that you're not fixated on one kind of particular worry. Then I just want to take a moment to just check that I am in fact screen sharing with you. And I think I am, that's fine. Right, so moving on. So these are the ways you might kind of, deal with your worry and manage those kind of worries. Worry time, worry tree, and then practicing some mindfulness. We're going to watch a video about mindful breathing, which can be useful, and that's just about being present in the moment. You might also use the 5 senses distraction technique, which are using your 5 senses. So, one thing I can touch, one thing I can taste, one thing I can hear, one thing I can feel. What am I missing? Touch, sound, taste, smell. One thing I can smell, and you might just do that in your kind of every day. Take 5 minutes out to do that. And you can, look up these distraction techniques and look up these kind of mindful techniques if you think they are going to be useful. And I'll now show you a video about mindful breathing that could be of use to you.
So often we're caught up in life's demands with no time to stop, but becoming more aware of your own thoughts and feelings and what's around you and accepting the present moment can help improve your mental health and well-being. Doing this affects both the mental and the physical you. Some people call this being more mindful. Focusing on the present means paying attention to your thoughts and feelings right here, right now. Breathing exercises are a great way to focus on the present and be more mindful. Doing this can also help when you're feeling stressed or anxious. This short video will take you through how to do a mindful breathing exercise. Firstly, settle into a natural, comfortable position. When you're ready, take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Breathe naturally, noticing the sensations of the breath entering and leaving the body as best you can. Allow your shoulders and neck to relax, focusing on your breathing, just being aware of it. Focus on how your body feels. What sensations do you notice? Do you feel your feet on the floor or the feeling of your clothes on your skin? Take this time to pay close attention to physical sensations, from the top of your head right down to your toes. Notice what you're thinking about right now and how you're feeling. Just take the time to notice your thoughts and feelings without judgment and without trying to change them. When you're ready, take one more breath and try to bring this awareness with you into the next moments of your day. Breathing techniques like this one can help to center you in the moment at any time and connect you with the present, which can help if you're feeling stressed or anxious.
Right, so just bear with me.
My name is Scott Harrison.
Just listen.
This is my wife, my son, and my one on the way.
Sorry about that. So, yeah, so hopefully that video about kind of mindfulness techniques and breathing, sort of how to go about that was helpful for you guys. And then there's a sort of NHS 5 steps to wellbeing, which we might have a look at now, which might be a helpful place for you to kind of have a think about these things. So I'm just going to load that now. So it's a link, so we will be circulating these slides, so you can access it that way, but just have a quick look at it together. Connecting with other people, you know, make sure you're taking time with family, friends, loved ones, even if it is just a checkup on the phone or a text message. You know, don't rely too heavily on technology, social media. You know, it's an obvious one that that's not going to be very good for you. Remain physically active, you know, make sure that you set yourself kind of challenges and goals to achieve them. So maybe if you're not a runner, you might say, right, well, I'm not going to run 40 minutes. I'm going to start by running 10 minutes. And then next week I might go up to 20 and so on. You know, learning a new skill. I think a lot of people did that during lockdown. You know, it's also okay if you don't feel that you know, if it doesn't interest you, if you don't want to do that. You know, you're much better off just finding something you actually enjoy and doing it that way. So don't turn it into a challenge. So giving to others means sort of time, effort, you know, thinking about others, giving them your consideration, being mindful. So that's something that we've just talked about, paying attention to the kind of, to the now and, you know, now and what's happening now for us. So as I say, you will have a copy of these slides, so you'll be able to access these NHS tips, but hopefully we just did a kind of bird's eye view of what they look like. So yeah, this is just a sort of nice sort of little look at, you know, what it means to kind of manage your worry. So, you know, remember to be active, to connect with others, to keep learning, or to keep doing things. If you don't want to be learning something new, keep doing things that give you pleasure. Give something of yourself, your time, you know, and, you know, if you want to take up volunteering, something like that, if that would, you know, that would be a good place to start. But it doesn't have to be as big as that. It might be something as simple as, you know, checking in on a neighbor once a day, or checking in on a friend once a week, whatever it might be. But make sure that you're not kind of, you know, insular. Make sure that you're looking outwards as well, and then just kind of taking note of what's going on around you. So I suppose this refers to our kind of mindful exercises and the 5 senses of just being present in the moment and not letting your thoughts escape to future and hypothetical worries. So what else might you do? So you can speak to people. So again, it's all about kind of connecting, sorry. So speak to friends, family, classmates, workmates, neighbors, you know, whoever that person might be. Check in with them, check in how they're doing, because, you know, chances are they might be struggling, but also allow them to check in on you, you know, have that rapport where you are able to kind of speak to one another and you know, just check in of like, how are you feeling? How have things been? Because, you know, I think it's sort of guaranteed that this year has been hard for everyone. So everyone will be kind of dealing with things in their own way, but I think everyone appreciates the sentiment of kind of checking in with each other and yeah, and kind of allowing for that conversation to happen. Yeah, sticking to your normal routine. Difficult, I know, with kind of working from home, studying from home, or perhaps not, you know, not working at the moment. Perhaps you're out of work. And that's, you know, that's also difficult, but try to put into place a routine, whatever that routine looks like. It's good to have that kind of daily routine. So wake up at a, you know, set time, do some exercise, you know, whatever that exercise looks like. Make sure that you know, are kind of eating 3 square meals a day, you know, factor things into your day that looks like a routine so that you're not just drifting, which I know that that can be very difficult, and it has been very difficult this past year, but I can't emphasize enough just how much routine will give you a kind of more of a sense of sort of achievement. So I think the next one I sort of touched upon, so don't overexpose yourself. This is one that I can really relate to. As I said, I've got an app, and I was just sort of getting an influx of news every you know, every couple of minutes, quite frankly. And I turned that app off so that I can only get the update once a day. And that's just a small tweak, but it has had an effect, and not having that kind of constant overwhelm with news and, you know, to some extent sort of doom and gloom. So you can control that and don't overexpose yourself. Spend time on yourself and things that help you feel calm and happy. Self-care, whatever that looks like for you. Try to identify the kind of good sides of self-care, you know, and some of the things you do that aren't so positive, and try to maintain the kind of healthier habits. And then if you know, if things are really overwhelming and you are really struggling, you know, by all means do get help. You know, help is out there. Speak to your GP, speak to, you know, your key worker if you have one, or someone at the Barnet Wellbeing service, you know, for them to kind of signpost you in the right direction, because it's, you know, it's much better to kind of, you know, going back to that word about connecting and connection, allow people to help you, you know, reach out for that help. Don't feel like you have to suffer in silence or by yourself. So here are some useful links and information for you. So there's some YouTube videos about the effects of stress on the brain, how we manage stress. So you might want to have a look at these if they're of any interest. And then we have the CNWL single point of access, crisis line, the Young Minds site, which is a very useful place to look for sort of tips and support, and, you know, where you might go for help. The free crisis messenger text service, Paperless, which is a suicide prevention organization, Hopeline, and then Headspace, which some of you may or may not have heard of, which is just an application which helps you access tools and resources to look after yourself and look after your mind and well-being. So yeah, we will be circulating these slides, so you'll have access to them, to all of these links. So I think it's important to say, you know, look after yourself, keep calm, and do stay well. That's ultimately what we're hoping to achieve. And you might want to join us for some of our other webinars, which will be coping with social anxiety, managing stress, dealing with procrastination and low mood. I hope that this has been helpful for you. This is our Barnet Young People Thrive email address and telephone number if you wanted to reach out and contact us about, you know, something that's come up in these slides or something more specific. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining today, and I hope that this was of some use to you, and I hope you can take away some of these tips and sort of techniques to help with your own kind of daily worry management. Thank you very much. Stay well. Bye-bye.